Today on Investigate TV, millions of homes across the country laced with lead.
Lead isn't this harmless thing. We can pass it down through generations.
Plus, elevated levels of a toxin linked to cancer found in people's blood supply, with more testing to come.
So the value of getting tested is they'll know how much they've been exposed to, how much of the PFAS they've been exposed to.
And an invisible threat. Warehouse workers sue their company, claiming they were exposed to a toxic gas.
So me and my wife, we sat down and we looked at each other and said, baby, they are now pausing all of you guys.
Investigate TV starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. Removing lead pipes is one of the biggest priorities in the Biden administration's agenda. The proposed deadline, 10 years to get rid of every lead line in America. But our team has discovered there's vast skepticism that deadline can be reached and evidence the goal is already off track. Carice Jackman digs into the government's plan to get the lead out.
Ten years ago, Flint, Michigan became the national epicenter of water contamination in America.
The water is running out the faucets yellow and brown.
The city is taking steps to correct the issue.
I don't think they told the truth at all.
I shut the hose off. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, Mom, I don't know. I can't breathe.
But that town isn't alone. In millions of homes, drinking water is pulled into faucets, showers, and bathtubs laced with lead.
Lead isn't this harmless thing. It is a very potent neurotoxin. It does permanent damage. We can pass it down through generations.
The victim of greed, corruption, and the mistakes and the blatant stupidity of our government. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Melissa Mays knows all too well what happens when clean water isn't taken seriously.
We need these service lines replaced because the water's not going to get better on its own. Things that shouldn't get in the way of public health did.
3, 2, 1.
This is a historic step for us. Here's to Flint.
Here's to Flint. Here.
In 2014, a decision by Michigan state leaders transferred the city's water source from the Detroit River to the Flint River in order to save money. But the water was not properly treated after the switch.
Human rights violation to the extreme.
Leaching lead from the city's old pipes into the drinking water.
Let's all bow our heads and close our eyes.
Sparking a water emergency and a national outcry for clean water everywhere.
But see people coming from all over the state in support of what happened to us, I think that's amazing.
10 years later, Mays says people in Flint still haven't fully healed.
Is the crisis over? No. We had to sue to get the service lines replaced, and that's not even finished.
That lawsuit, filed by Mays and others, claimed the city of Flint violated the Safe Drinking Water Act. The city settled and agreed to replace all the lead lines by 2020. But that didn't happen.
Mayor Neely, why did it take so long to fix these lead service lines or replace these lead service lines?
Right. You know, you have to be very methodical about the way that you approach it. You know, we have to deal with the eroded trust with government and residents alike.
This year, a federal court found the city in contempt because it failed to replace all the lines in time and didn't finish related repairs to sidewalks and yards. Flint's Mayor Sheldon Neely said he couldn't delve into the court's order and litigation, but says at this point, the city's replaced nearly 30,000 lead service lines and only has 30 to go. But that is now 4 years after the court-ordered deadline.
So for those who may say, it took too long, there's no excuse, what would you say to people who said that?
Well, I mean, many communities throughout the country are going through the same thing, and they're saying that it takes time. It takes time to be very thorough and methodical about what we do.
Flint, under a federal court order, couldn't get the pipes in one city replaced by its deadline, making the job of replacing millions of lines in America in the next 10 years a daunting task.
One that 15 Republican attorneys general have this year even called unworkable, underfunded, and unnecessary. That in a letter to the EPA that says the proposed deadline is impossible to comply with.
We are prioritizing this issue.
Wendy Wilkes, Director of Infrastructure Implementation at the EPA, says they are working hard to bring the administration's Get the Lead Out initiative to life. The 2021 bipartisan infrastructure law provided $15 billion specifically dedicated to state initiatives. Our national investigative team found states have already begun applying for loans and grants to help with the removal.
We've set up really our largest ever technical assistance initiative, and GLOW, the Get the Lead Out initiative, is a part of that. With GLOW, communities will receive technical assistance kind of along a range of different ways to get the lead out of their water system. So it starts with identifying where the lead service lines are.
But that identification isn't simple. We've discovered some states don't know the full picture of how many lead lines they have, which means the full scope of the problem remains largely unrealized. We asked every state for an estimate of how many homes have lead pipes. The result? Some had identified tens of thousands of lead lines, like Massachusetts, Tennessee, and North Dakota. But many couldn't give us a number. Alabama said their number is unknown. Kansas also said it had nothing on hand to give us. Nebraska, the same. But later this year, all of the states will have to know their numbers. An EPA rule requires states to get an accurate inventory by October 16th. 6 months ahead of the deadline, states are still collecting. Idaho says it has a handful of local inventories turned in so far. Utah is still collecting and says until it has more submissions, it doesn't have any number to provide. Counting lines is not a quick process, and the clock is ticking. One survey found it takes 2 or 3 full-time people working 6 days a week, a total of 2 months, to do an inventory of a medium-sized city. The process also isn't cheap. A report prepared for the American Water Works Association estimates that inventorying 100,000 service lines could cost around $4.2 million, depending on various factors, like how much information a city already has.
What would your message be to those states that say, this is a daunting task, we don't know if we can do it?
It is daunting, and especially at the community level, it can be scary not to know where to start or where the lead pipes are, or if you're a homeowner, whether or not your pipe is lead. That's why EPA is providing this technical assistance to help communities get on the road to understanding their scope of the lead problem and then replacing those lead lines.
As the government works to help towns assess the damage, this process is plagued with delays already. In 2021, the government moved deadlines twice, including pushing back the inventory deadline. We've found indications the next phase of the process to submit replacement plans will also be delayed, with this Louisiana government page saying the EPA would be delaying this phase, a deadline that was also supposed to be met this October.
So can we realistically get this done in 10 years?
I think it's possible. We have really good examples across the country of communities who are well on their way to reaching that 10-year mark, some perhaps even faster. It does take commitment, and this administration is saying we're committed.
One of the towns that has accomplished getting the lead out of their pipes is Benton Harbor, Michigan, replacing 100% of their 4,500 lead service lines. For Mays, she's tired of the excuses and doesn't want to hear states say it can't be done.
Given your experience, your passion for what's happened here in Flint, what would your message be to states and municipalities about getting the lead out of their water systems and replacing those lead pipes?
Get the lead out. All of the ways we're failing the youth and our children, this should not be one of them. This is not a hard one. This is not any kind of new fancy legislation. Lead pipes are bad. Get it out and stop giving it to the people that you're supposed to be protecting.
The EPA tells our team that $15 billion is the largest investment it has specifically for lead, but also knows that's not enough. They say the Get the Lead Out initiative is just the first step. The EPA also says if you're a homeowner and you're concerned about potentially having a lead pipe serving your home, please contact your water system. Follow the latest investigations from our team on your favorite social media platform. We are at InvestigateTV on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Coming up, elevated levels of, quote, forever chemicals found in people's blood prompts a university to launch a larger exposure study. That story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Hundreds of Georgia residents will soon have an opportunity to get their blood tested for cancer-causing toxins. That testing part of an exposure study prompted by elevated levels of the toxins known as PFAS found in people's blood as part of reporter Andy Parati's investigation last year.
All right, so I'm going to pour the water in here now.
Mike Elliott prepares a pot of coffee.
My secret is I use 2 different types of coffees.
While his preferred grind stays consistent, he recently changed the way he makes it. Instead of the tap water he's used for decades, he now uses filtered.
This way it's a lot cleaner.
A change in routine. Following alarming blood test results after Investigate TV tested Mike and 10 other Rome, Georgia residents last year for a cancer-causing toxin called bifluoroalkyl, or PFAS for short. Nearly all of their levels above the national median. Mike's twice as high. He shared his frustration during a group interview with test participants last year.
It seems like we should be able to yell and scream at somebody. I mean, something needs to be done. Well, I was mad. I was upset. I didn't understand how that could happen.
The possible source of contamination? Drinking water. State environmental officials identified elevated levels of PFAS in the city's water in 2016. A recently settled lawsuit put the blame on carpet manufacturers using the chemical upriver. The city says its water has been safe for the past 8 years, but it's likely residents drank water laced with PFAS for decades.
I mean, all chemical exposures make me mad.
At that group meeting, Emory University professor Dr. Dana Barr told the residents more testing is needed to measure the impact and the source.
It takes money to do things, though. That's the problem, and somebody has to fund it.
About 3 months later, Dr. Barr found the money. The university just announcing it obtained a $35,000 grant to conduct an exposure study to test at least 200 people for PFAS in the Rome area.
It's a very big deal for us. It's a very important issue, and it's a local issue, and it has the possibility of having a big community impact.
What's the value of getting tested?
So the value of getting tested is they'll know how much they've been exposed to, how much of the PFAS they've been exposed to.
The test results could give residents guidance on how to better monitor their health. The National Academy of Sciences recommends people with elevated levels of PFAS to undergo more health screenings to catch potential illnesses early.
How important was our story in getting this funding?
Very important, because we didn't know that this issue existed before your study. In thinking back, it should have been very intuitive that there was going to be an issue because of all the carpet industry and the use of PFAS as stain repellents and water repellents and things like that. But yeah, we just didn't really know about the issue before then.
Hundreds of people about to get answers from exposure to a chemical impacting their community for years.
I think it's fantastic. You've got to start someplace. It's not about pointing figures, it's about getting answers.
You can stream this story and others from Investigate TV anytime directly on your television. Download our free app on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV devices today. Up next, more than 50 workers sue their company with claims they were exposed to another cancer-causing toxin for years. That story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Dozens of workers fall sick, some with cancer and even dying. A joint investigation by Investigate TV and Grist uncovered claims a Georgia company knowingly exposed its employees to a toxic gas for years. While environmental regulators took action on the issue, our investigation uncovered similar facilities across the country. Andy Parati breaks down the dangers these workers face.
This man's muscle spasm.
Ira Montgomery shows dozens of prescriptions he takes every day to stay alive.
This is another blood pressure.
26 pills in all.
I forgot those from one more, I'm sorry. And this is anti-reject.
Medication needed following an organ transplant after doctors discovered cancer in his liver that nearly took his life.
15 pills in the morning, 16 pills at night, every day, 7 days a week.
So this is your life?
Yeah, my new life. I thank God for being here, but it's hard.
A joint investigation by InvestigateTV and Grist uncovered Ira is one of more than 50 employees at this Lithia Springs, Georgia warehouse who claimed in a lawsuit their former employer, ConMed, exposed them to a cancer-causing toxin for years. Many of them now suffering from severe illness. At least 4 have died.
So me and my wife, we sat down and we looked at each other and said, baby, they are now pausing all of you guys.
Here's how it happened according to the lawsuit. It starts at this facility owned by Sterigenics in Cobb County, Georgia, which sterilizes millions of medical devices a week using a hazardous colorless gas called ethylene oxide, a toxin the Environmental Protection Agency says causes cancer and tumors. The sterilized products are then trucked 12 miles away, here to ConMed's 300,000 square foot warehouse, the size of 5 football fields. While there are boxes of medical equipment treated with ethylene oxide, off gases inside the warehouse, allegedly exposing workers.
I was shocked.
Attorney Eric Hertz represents Ira and other warehouse workers in a pending lawsuit that claimed ConMed and Sterigenics conspired together to hide exposure from workers. The claims against ConMed were dismissed after Hertz said the plaintiffs reached an agreement. Sterigenics' lawsuit is still pending. In 2020, ConMed admitted to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration that employees were not informed about ethylene oxide, fining the company $7,800.
There's no reason not to tell the employees. There's no reason not to give them protection devices.
Handheld monitors used by Ira and other ConMed workers show ethylene oxide levels inside the warehouse so high, it set off alarms. Multiple readings more than 50 parts per million. The exposure limit set by OSHA is 1 parts per million.
This is 911. What's the address of the emergency?
It's ConMed Corporation. There's an employee. I'm not sure if he's having a seizure or a heart attack.
According to county dispatch records, EMS responded to the warehouse at least 22 times since 2016.
We just used to have people that come in there and just fall out. Just like
collapse?
Just collapse.
We was having a meeting and one of our employees just collapsed in the floor.
The warehouse is where the material that gets sterilized goes to. Nobody really thought about them having emissions.
Jim Bolin is the air branch chief for the Georgia Department of Environmental Protection. In 2019, the agency tested the air around another Georgia warehouse storing medical equipment. The findings were startling to this date. The warehouse emitting 5,700 pounds of ethylene oxide per year. That's about 9 times higher than the facility where the equipment is sterilized.
That's correct. The controlled facility had lower emissions and the warehouse had higher emissions.
Wow. I mean, that must have been a surprise to you.
Yes, it was a very big surprise.
After uncovering elevated levels of the toxic gas, the Georgia Environmental Protection Division now mandates these kinds of warehouse companies must obtain air quality permits, which include monthly testing and new equipment to remove the gas. While Georgia took action, we uncovered warehouses in other states that store products sterilized with ethylene oxide do not have similar regulations.
Do you think this is something other states should be looking into as well?
I think they should be looking into it.
This one here is another anti-rejection.
An industry using a dangerous chemical, accused of exposing workers to an invisible threat for years.
I gave you 13 years of professional work. I trust you to make it safe for me to come to work. So why you can't just do it right?
Scan the QR code on your screen now to watch full Investigate TV videos on our YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Investigate TV content. Coming up, budgeting for a new home should go past the monthly mortgage. Tips on what else you need to consider after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. If you're looking to enter the housing market, making sure you can afford your new home is important, and it goes beyond the monthly mortgage payments. In this week's Watching Your Wallet, Rachel DePompa sat down with a financial expert about ways you can budget for a new home.
And it's not just a mortgage payment you should be budgeting for, it's also a savings account for unexpected home repairs.
You'll have insurance, maintenance, and property taxes to budget for as you look to buying a home. Consider what your water, electric, and gas bill might look like in a new home. Michael Joyce with the financial firm Agili says if the goal is buying this spring or next, start budgeting now and start saving as much money as you can.
You know, typically you have to put 20% down or you pay PMI. Now there are some ways around that, and PMI stands for primary mortgage insurance. But the best thing to do is to save up, save in something that is relatively safe. Now the good news is those things that are relatively safe earn a pretty good return right now.
He says you could use very short-term treasury bills to save, which would get you around 5% depending on the market. He says you can see some high-yield money market accounts in the 5% range. He also says work on improving your credit if that needs improving.
The mortgage companies, the banks that will write the mortgages, they are really looking to have higher quality borrowers.
Also, make sure you talk to your friends who just bought a home to see if they ran into any surprises or have any advice.
Get a trusted realtor as well. Word of mouth is really good, and also sit down and talk to several before you choose one.
Looking for more Investigate TV content online? Scan the QR code on your screen now or visit InvestigateTV.com. And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. Hope to see you next week.